And that is a welcome not for me, but for our distinguished guest today. It's a great pleasure to welcome not only a studio full of foodies in our audience, but more importantly, our special guest today, who is the first South African chef ever to achieve the coveted Michelin star. To say that it's the Oscars of the food world is, I think, an understatement. We're going to find out today what it actually takes to win one of those. But Jan Hendrik van Westhuizen, it's great to have you back with us at Cape Talk. Thanks so much for popping in today.
Thank you, Pippa. Great to be back.
And of course, he's here for the Good Food and Wine Show, which is now just a couple of days away, opening on Friday at the Cape Town International Convention Centre and running through the weekend. You can look forward to lots of delicious food, obviously lots of new products to taste, cookbooks to buy, demos to attend, and much, much more. And Jan Hendrik, one of the headline acts this year. Congratulations, first of all, on achieving the star and holding on to it. It's a long, long way away from where it all began, a rural farm in the north of the country all the way to the French Riviera. In a nutshell, tell us how that happened.
Pippa, I think the story has been told a few times, but I'll just recap on my life in a second. I was born in Nelspruit in the north, and then moved to Middelburg in Mpumalanga, went to school there, and grew up on a farm. Just always had quite a big ambition and quite big dreams, and just followed that. Packed my little car and drove down to the Cape. I had a blue Datsun. It had a different name then, but I won't say what. And I just came to study chef in Cape Town, and really always tried to go the extra step and push myself the extra mile. And I ended up working for fashion and photography and design, and that took me to Paris, after which I worked for Al Paris, doing photography, food styling, food conceptualizing. And then I went down to Monaco, and I worked on a yacht, and that's where my dream of opening a restaurant really came together. And I just thought, it's now or never, and I opened up Jan.
I went down to Monaco and I worked on a yacht, he says. As if everybody does that. I mean, it was
cleaning
Monaco.
Toilets on a yacht, yeah.
I was just going to say, I was watching the Grand Prix in Monaco this weekend and looking at those yachts and thinking of you and thinking, what a long way for a boy from Middelburg to end up there in the jet set. I mean, that's the absolute jet set lifestyle, but I'm sure it's nothing like as glamorous as people think it is.
I was just saying earlier, I've got 3 South African chefs that's working for me at the moment, and they all went to the Monaco Grand Prix this weekend.
Oh, so
it's a good life. But you know, we spend about 16 to 18 hours per day in the kitchen, and if you're not in the kitchen, you thinking food. This whole expectation that's around Michelin, and especially Michelin star. It's really big. And so there's very little time for switching off. It's a constant move and a constant proving that you actually deserve the accolade. They can take it away, and that's the difference between, I guess, an Oscar and something like that.
This is true. The Oscar sits on a shelf wherever, whereas the Michelin star can go. We've had a few people asking you to talk about the process of awarding a Michelin star. How does it work? Do the judges come to your restaurant without your knowing it? Is it a completely anonymous process?
So we got into the Michelin Guide 1 year after opening, with a knife and a fork, and that's a good sign to say that you're on the right track. And then they're watching you really carefully. We had one inspection that I knew of, where I was busy in the back of the kitchen, and the maitre d' called me and said, "Chef, there's somebody to see you. It's Michelin." And of course, my mouth was stuffed with malva pudding, and I was just like, "Ach, nee, kak, that's not possible. You know, how is that possible?" So, and I just turned around, and there this guy was showing his red card, and he actually just said, it said "tout excellent, c'est incroyable," and it means it was really, really good. And and then I realized for the first time they're really watching us, and it's possible, you know.
And where were you when you got the news that you'd actually done it and won a star? Does somebody phone you? Do you wait for the list to come out? How does it work?
Yeah, I was. We didn't expect that to happen. Not so quick, at least. And I was in the parking garage. I was driving out, and I got a call It was about 12:30 on a Saturday evening after service. After the restaurants told me numerous times, this guy's really looking for you very urgently. And then I called the number and I hung up, and then he called me back at 12:30. And this guy was talking so fast, and he was explaining to me, and I just heard Michelin, and my French is not great, and it wasn't great then. It's about 50% now. And I just heard Michelin, I heard Étoile, I heard Félicitations, and I heard all these things, and I was just like, are you for real? I was like, couldn't believe it. And there it was. He said to me, please don't tell anybody. You're flying tomorrow to Paris to accept the award. Of course, I called everybody. And I went straight home, opened up a cheap bottle of vodka, whatever I had, and got plastered on my own.
Oh, no. I mean, it's a credit, obviously, not only to your own skill and your own creativity in planning the menu, but obviously to the team that you've trained working under you in the kitchen. When did you, I mean, if you went home and got smashed on your own, when did you break the news to them?
I couldn't tell anybody. The team, the next morning, we all did a photo shoot, and then I actually called them in. I sent a text to the WhatsApp group, the restaurant group, and I said, there's been a huge problem with the restaurant. And all the chefs came in their undies and in their pajamas, and we all live really close to the restaurant. It's like a real village, and one lives just upstairs, the other one just around the corner. And Kevin and Rutger came in, and they were like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" The hair was like standing sideways, and I said, "Guys, we got a Michelin star." And it was tears immediately for all of us. Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, that deserves a round of applause. Let's talk a little bit about the restaurant. You're located in Nice. I mean, of all places to be, what more could you dream of than a restaurant on the French Riviera? But it's a little piece of South Africa on the Riviera, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's there's quite a lot of South Africans actually coming that way. So we situated in the port of Nice, right next to the old city. We're one street behind the port. So it's a very kind of little forgotten street. When we opened, it was a big risk opening up something small, taking a big chance. There was only 2 restaurants on that street. Today there's 12, and it's just really evolved over the years. And the restaurant's really small. It's 24 seats. We don't turn a table twice per service. It's yours for the whole evening. You sit down and that's your seat. There's also a lot of people that want to interact with the kitchen, and I think that's really important. And that's where what I really believe in is that the chef, myself, if I'm not there, if I'm here in South Africa, that my sous chef goes out and actually speak to the guests and interact with them, and just have a real casual chat. You enjoying your meal? Where you're from? It just makes such a difference to the guests. And I get that in South Africa as well, which is lekker. It's happening more and more. So yeah, that's Jan.
Let's talk about the food itself. What are you serving in your restaurant, and how much persuading has it taken to get the French to try things like Malva pudding?
So first of all, we embrace heritage. That's something I've always done. I think it started with cooking what I know. And not really jumping into things that I'm unfamiliar with and trying to make a foam from something I don't even know how to spell foam. It's from Middelburg. So I cooked food that I really related to. And to start with, the first month or so, it didn't work. It really didn't work. I have a business partner, and I was saying to him, we need to do something. It's the bobotie, it's too strong for the French. They don't like cinnamon. The food's too rich. The Cook Sisters is too sweet. It's just like not working for these guys. And then as time progresses, you find a way of actually finding your niche and how to. And then I sat back and I thought, at chef school, we learned all these French methods of cooking. And we include them in South African cooking as well. And I just thought, okay, let's settle down on the real master course and let's actually just include the French method with South African ingredients. To give you an example for the moment, we do a cache fête. Actually, it's like a lard candle, which is made with pork lard, white pepper, and cayennes. And that's something that I grew up with when we were really on a run, or if it was an afternoon, freshly thick cut farm bread with white lard and white pepper. And now we've turned that into something that people will go, oh, I want to try that. And it's this candle, which is just burning at the table. And right next to it is a mospolitjie. And people can literally eat the candle, dripping the candle on their mospolitjie. So we've taken mom's, grandmother's recipes and we've tweaked it slightly, giving it that wow,
And adapted it to a palate that's different from our own. So
absolutely, reworking recipes and dropping too much spice and dropping away some of the richness as well, which we love in South Africa.
We do. I have to ask, one of the things we don't love in South Africa at the moment, or at least lots of people don't love, is the bread. Everyone's banting and giving up carbs. That's got to be a very hard sell in a country like France that lives on baguette. I hope they're not doing it too.
I think South Africans are changing again. I don't think cauliflower's price has gone up too much, I've noticed. But no, the French's bread is religious. I mean, that's really something. And we bake all our bread ourselves. We do a Cape seed loaf. We do the mospolitjie. We do potbrood getoast. So almost burnt, like the real koolstoof toast. So there's bread is, and we've had a lot of requests of opening a bakery because the bread is so good, the South African breads.
I've got to say, I've got a sister-in-law who has worked as a baker in Michelin-starred restaurants, and that is a life you would not wish on anybody. They start work at sort of 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. It's hot. It's a mission, but it's a real labor of love.
It is. And I mean, at the moment, our kitchen, it used to be an old motorcycle repair shop. That place is not fit out to be a real kitchen with all the people working in it. And we've just installed more air conditioners, but it reaches up to 35, 40 degrees Celsius in there. All the time, so it's really a harsh environment.
Okay, let's take a couple of questions from the floor. If I may ask Amy to get going with the mic. Where's Ruth? Ruth on the edge here had a very interesting question about the people eating at your restaurant. If we can just get her hooked up. Afternoon, Ruth. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you so much. I would imagine you cook for many, many interesting people, but I just wondered if you could mention who the most interesting person you've ever cooked for.
My father, definitely. But I'll quickly want to just tell you, my dad came to the restaurant. They've only been once, and he was sitting, and he's from Middelburg. Now he's, of course, the new Kardashian of Middelburg. But he was sitting and he was ordering his brandy and Coke, or cognac and Coke, from the French maitre d' or sommelier, and with a hand in the air like it's spur, And my dad started feeding the lady opposite him, saying, "Taste my son's food. This is my son's food." And that was probably my most incredible guest I've ever had in the restaurant. But other than that, we've had Sarkozy. We've had, there's been so many. We haven't had Princess Charlene. We're waiting for her. I don't know where she has been, but or where
she's just down the road.
I know. Try to get her. The people that come, and I know it's an old saying, everybody is a VIP, but it's really like that. The restaurant's so small. Probably the most interesting person I would say that's been to the restaurant was. I'll get back to that. But I mean, there's been quite a few. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
my dad, number one.
Anyone who's got a contact to Charlene, please just pass along the message that she's got an invite for dinner down the road. Penny also had a very interesting question. Is Penny here? Penny's right in the front, sorry. Let's just get a microphone to Penny. We've spoken already about how difficult the working environment can be, how hot and cramped it can be in a kitchen. But Penny, your question was?
Well, is it the right Penny? I wanted to know where you'd done your training.
Oh, I think we've got two Pennies. But let's go there and then to the other one. Okay.
Penny, so I went to Zevenwacht Chef School after school. I did a diploma in culinary arts, and after that an advanced diploma and a diploma in pastry. So deep down inside me, pastry is my real love. And then after chef school, I went to study applied design in Stellenbosch. And that was a degree that really brought together conceptualization. You don't just do something, but there's a purpose of doing it, and there's a reason for doing that, and what the concept is behind that. So Stellenbosch, that's my main grounds.
Okay, thanks. And then other Penny had a question about what it takes to be a chef, I think. Was that you in the front? No? Other Penny? Oh, no, that was the same Penny. Oh, same one. Okay, well, I'll ask it for you then. Penny's other part of her question was
Sneaking
really...
another question there.
What you wanted to know, Jan, was what do you consider the most important attribute for a chef, to be a successful chef?
Yeah, Penny, I would say it's, first of all, it's dedication. Ambition. You need to really love what you do. You need to be so... It's almost... it's this addiction that happens with you, that you file tastes, and it's an obsession. And I think that's really... how to describe it really well is you build up a library in the back of your head, and you get obsessed with tasting new things and textures and trying new stuff and really being curious. I think curiosity is massive. That's a very important attribute. I think combine those things, and the most important thing is the love. You know, if you don't really love what you do, you need to be able to spend those hours working with food.
Thanks. I've got a question. Is it true that you've got an app on your phone that helps you keep an eye on the pots on the stove and back at your restaurant?
Yes, how do you know that?
Research.
Yes, I do.
How often are you checking that app while you're here in South Africa?
No, it's actually not a lot. You know, when I left France, I really trust these guys, these boys that's running Jan at the moment. It's like a baby that I handed over to them while I'm not there, and it's easy to... I mainly use that to check for deliveries. I mainly use that to check for when the last table leaves. And it's really easy today. You can zoom in and you can actually just see every pinch of salt that goes in a pot. And I don't check that, but it's there's like cameras everywhere. It's like om 'n bietjie bang te maak.
So you could be phoning them to say, please move the mint leaf to 3 o'clock on the plate, not 2:30.
There's this button you press on the app, and the camera can actually speak.
Ooh.
So I can speak through the camera, almost like being, you know, like above the big brother. What are you doing?
Big Jan is watching you.
Yeah.
Love it.
Something.
This is a great question, but it's anonymous, so apologies for taking over your question, whoever asked it. But they want to know what you cook for yourself when you get home at the end of the night. I know from living with a chef, it's a peanut butter sandwich more often than not. I think yours is a biltong and chip sandwich, isn't it?
Yes. Biltong and chips, that's my ultimate. We make biltong at the restaurant, so we have an endless supply of it. The beef in France is nothing compared to South African beef, so there's a real struggle. But yeah, I close my eyes and I pretend it's a cow or beef from Middelburg or somewhere. I go through these phases, and currently I'm indulging a lot in peanut butter with strawberry jam, thick butter, and melted for 5 seconds in the microwave, and then closed and just chuff stuck it in my face. I mean, yeah. Also, I love doing one-pot dishes, like just having a boeuf bourguignon or a stew or a potjie or something, just like really cooking off. And I prep, Sundays is my off day, and then I really love cooking at home and just making those type of dishes. And I portion it and I've put it in the freezer. And I'm sorted for the week. That really helps me, yeah.
Glad to hear that you eat like a normal person back at home.
So, I'm not going to tell you all my secrets, but there's bad ones in between as well.
One of the themes at this year's Good Food and Wine Show is around food waste. And it's something that I'd like to think as a country and as a globe we're becoming more mindful of, the fact that massive amounts of the food produced for human consumption ends up in the dustbin. How do you manage that? It's particularly difficult, surely, in a restaurant setting where reusing things is not as easy as perhaps in your home kitchen. How do you deal with the issue of food waste?
Yeah, that's a huge issue. And I think, just back home, 50% of South Africa goes to bed hungry. And we throw away so much offcuts and, just, for example, taking a bunch of leeks and people just use the white ends, the white part, and the rest just goes straight into the bin. Or if bread is stale, it goes into the bin. Or there's so many, in the egg itself, there's a little you need to put your thumb in there and really get all of the egg white out. I mean, so chopping onions, you can use that onion skins for something else. You can burn them and make a powder and just really put it on your bread. It's really good. It's like add cumin to it. So there's lots of vegetable offcuts. At the restaurant specifically, we have a machine called Pacojet, which is a Swiss machine. It's quite incredible. What it does, it's beakers that we throw off all the offcuts in, from the langoustine shells to the bones to everything. Then we pour a liquid over that, or a stock, and we freeze it. And then that machine gets connected to a blade, which shaves that frozen liquid into a fine powder. And we use that in sauces and back into ice creams and sorbets and anything like that. So wastage at the restaurant, lots go back into staff food, whatever we don't use tonight. But because the restaurant's so small, we close the restaurant every night with empty fridges. And we start prep again the fresh day. So that really helps.
That's a very French way of doing it, isn't it? It's one of the big differences when you visit France.
Absolutely. When I opened Jan, we had an a la carte menu, and most of the people went for the tasting menu, and I've changed that over the past few years. We only have a tasting menu now, and it's almost the luxury of not having too much choice. I think that's the new luxury today, is to be able to arrive at a place and you trust the chef and you allow me to serve you 12 courses and it will be the best that I can do.
Can't wait to come and visit. We'll try it all out. There's some lovely messages coming through for you on Facebook. So proud of this wonderful South African chef, says Trish. Well done to you, young man. Norma says, what a gentleman chef. She's looking forward to the show as well. Thank you for the feedback, everybody. What do you miss most about South Africa? You've mentioned, obviously, the beef, the biltong. You miss having your family around you. But what do you take with you, for example, when you go back to France? Do you stick little bits and pieces in your luggage?
Yes, I do.
Sorry if
beef,
people in power are listening.
Yeah, I hope I actually have a connection at the airport already. I do have a bag full of buchu. But I'll just wear my hat when I go back now. But stuff like, I'm very addicted to buchu at the moment. Millipap, massive amounts of millipap. Just one suitcase is millipap, and that's quite heavy. So we do guavas, my tinned guavas. We don't get guavas in France. It's very South African. And so there's lots of things I take over. I've just bought 12 doilies, which I want to serve my new dessert, which is called Kerk Bazaar. And I want to put that on the doilies. So it's a constant find every time I come back to South Africa. But the thing I miss the most is really the people. The real open friendliness, just going into a shop and somebody is like really, hi, how are you, what would you like? Just a little chat. We don't have that in France. The French people they're very protective to their own privacy. They don't allow you in very quickly. It's a very lonely place to be for a foreigner, for an outsider. And even though we've been there 4.5 years with the restaurant, and I've been there for 7 in total, I'm still considered as an outsider. So I really miss the South Africans and the real people and just the nonsense praat,